Gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government.
Do you still think that jet fuel brought down the World Trade Center?
Imagine if I told you 20 years ago, which I did, that we would come to a point where mainstream corporate media would say that even having a nation existing is evil and bad. And the president saying that we are nationalist is inherently bad. Or that mothers and fathers existing is bad, and that children should be raised in communal dorms and sexualized at a young age. I did tell you that, and it has come true. And how is it coming true? How did I know? Because the globalists have admitted their whole plan. And that's what's so frustrating, is that I read their textbooks, I read their white papers, I watch their speeches, I study their program going back to what was adopted by the British royalty, the British Empire, the Dutch East India Company, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and much of the U.S. establishment. By the 1860s, they had officially adopted the theorem and the ideology of eugenics developed by Sir Francis Galton and his other cohorts, Charles Darwin and others. And, of course, I made the film Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement 11 years ago. You watch it now and you're like, 90% of this has come true. People watch it and they say, you must be an insider. How the insiders tell you what they're doing. Planetary government, forced microchipping to buy and sell, face scanning to buy and sell, global social score, where if you're not a good little globalist, literally you starve to death and cannot move 1 foot. That has now been officially announced. And it's so frustrating to watch them talk to the public like children, have the public operate like children. Because this is the whole real world we're talking about. And the British Empire adopted this pseudoscience to take control of civilization, and they've basically done it. And it's not your pop eugenics that you get out of the encyclopedia. It's real eugenics. And if you look at it and you study it, here's the big revelation. Here's the giant revelation. Because I can sit here and talk about all the news and play all the clips and make the show really interesting, but if I don't go back to the basics here, we don't have a hope. I don't know the exact specifics of when they plan to execute every step of their operation. And I don't know every detail, but from their own statements, their own past actions, and from watching the results of what the global technocrats are carrying out, I'm going to say this very succinctly and clearly. And this is why, number one, they want us off the air. The planet is not being geoengineered. Geoengineering means you're making something better or nicer, and you're doing it for the dominant species on the planet for their needs. The terraforming operations going on publicly, the genetic engineering, all of it, every metric, and in their own white papers show there is an attempt to collapse the atmosphere similar to what happened to Mars. And there is a real attempt to irrevocably destroy the DNA double helix genetic profile, not just of humans, but of every species on Earth. Now, you notice the globalists always take control of anything that they're running. So if they're trying to kill the planet and slowly mutate and basically devolve and destroy all current life forms. You can debate all day why they're doing it or who they are. Or is this, is this just evil humans playing God, or is somebody else, giving them the information? We don't know that. But what we know without any debate, without any discussion, hands down, on its face, everything being done by the Department of Energy and by these multinational corporations with the Terminator genetic line and the cloning and the glyphosate, everything is specifically being done to irrevocably destroy us with a soft kill, so we never even know what hit us. And you notice the big point, you're never supposed to talk about the chemicals in the water hurting animal and plant life. You're never supposed to talk about the attack on the two genders. You're never supposed to talk about the world government. All the things that are there in public. They've gone from denying the giant geoengineering program that's really terraforming to now saying, oh, we're going to save the earth. Bill and Melinda Gates, Council on Foreign Relations. We're going to spray barium salts and aluminum dioxide and radioactive isotopes into the air by the tens of millions of tons to save the earth. And then when you look at the science, there's no debating it. What they're doing just in this one program, not to mention the vaccines that are really binary carriers, but everything else, the GMO, the allergies exploding, the cancer exploding, the infant mortality exploding, the life expectancy, lifespan plunging, every metric, we are being killed. We're being murdered. And we're being culturally and spiritually poisoned as well at a just warfare level. And then I see other talk show hosts across the board, big podcasters, you name it, who know all this, and they relish their seat at the table, and they relish that they're part of the power structure, they think, and that they're playing ball with it. And the 5G on record, they even tell you in every publication, like cigarettes say they can kill you. 5G rattles your DNA into pieces. It's at the perfect frequency to give you brain cancer, testicular cancer, ovarian cancer. I mean, it's just murdering everyone. They knew, we are being murdered right now. Your family, all of us. We are under biblical assault. Oh, and then there's this book called the Bible that in the Old Testament and the New Testament, in at least 6 books, says in the future there'll be a world government, and it describes all of this plan down to the fine detail. And now it's here, but not in any of these churches. They don't talk about it. So let me tell you something. We're not in Kansas. We've never been in Kansas. We're on a planet in deep space, and we're getting jacked with. And the establishment is working with whoever is running this. Okay. I'm going to cover all the current world news and the stock market plunging 1,500 points and how the globalists said they'd do it. And we told you it was about to happen. And next month's news today. But please, if you're a new listener especially, but if you're a longtime listener, if what I'm saying is even partially true, everyone should really be upset about it, right? But I'm telling you, if you go research the globalists saying they're going to establish a world government, and they are going to have AI that rules the planet, and then they are going to merge with machines and ascend, but before they can ascend, humanity must be exterminated. Now, that's in my film Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. Made it 11 years ago. But I was talking about it for 20-plus years. You turn on Discovery Channel, History Channel, you listen to Elon Musk, who meets with these globalists. You listen to Bill Joy, countless others, and they'll say, yeah, we go to these big billionaire conferences, and the discussion is, do we just go ahead and exterminate humanity because they're obsolete, or we let people just play video games all day? And the answer is, we're just going to phase folks out as quickly as possible. Now, obviously, they don't tell 99% of people the full plan. If you go to any major university, the heads of departments Like Dr. Pianka at UT, the head of the biology department. Remember him? He said on his UT website, he's a Luciferian. He does druid rituals. And then he won the Texas Academy of Sciences Award. He just won on one example. And he projected a bunch of skulls on the wall and said, I can't wait for the airborne Ebola to be released. It'll kill 90+%. He got a standing ovation when he said it's time to wipe out humanity. He said, me and my family were ready to die. And then some of his graduate students got very threatening with me. We found out a few of them worked in government bioweapons labs. And they said, well, you know, he says only get rid of 90%. We have to get rid of everybody. So I'm just giving you little snapshot examples of this, that when you look at the Bushes or you look at the Clintons, they're just high-level functionaries of the real power behind the throne. And they're setting up a post-human future. We always see the news like, oh, the robots are coming, and they'll show some Boston Dynamics, you know, robot that can do backflips. The real machine takeover is the cars all driving you, there being no more farmers, school teachers being robots, surgeons being robots, and humans being removed and made obsolete. And then the people controlling the robots and controlling the technocracy, they're running the show. The real AI is the Alexa in your house, listening and recording to everything you do and then running it through big AI algorithms. And it's all here, and it's all being done with the post-human future in mind. From the statements of the establishment. And if you go back to Darwin, Wedgwood, Huxley, Galton, they were all a form of intellectual royalty in England. And they even started a breeding program to try to create supermen. And Aldous Huxley was one of those. So was his brother Julian Huxley, if you believe it. They thought they were supermen. And Darwin, if you actually don't just read the pop stuff about him, but actual books he wrote, not just his theory on the species, he had 115 fever when he was in a third world jungle. And he believed he was contacted by entities that told him about evolution and the future and these new sciences, but that for man to ascend, we had to merge with machines and take control of our evolution, but that the general public under social Darwinism had to be killed. And then you read the books of Arthur C. Clarke, inventor of the telecommunications satellite, 2001 Odyssey, Space Odyssey. Notice it's the same story. And this obelisk comes, it takes control of human evolution, and then all of a sudden it sends us another signal from the moon and another signal to Jupiter or Saturn, depending on the book or the movie. And the human has to go transcend. First, the other humans have to die. Then the other human has to go through this time gate and then come back reincarnated as the Star Child. And then you read his other books, like Childhood's End. I don't just have to know this from reading it. He gave speeches and admitted that this is basically an allegory on what they believe they're doing. And so in Childhood's End, the aliens that are giving this technology don't want to show themselves because it's a little too scary, because some earlier humans saw them and said they were really bad. But they're about 9 feet tall and are big red devils with big black horns, like out of the classical archetype or out of legend. So big tall, red demons with big, giant black horns. And they give us unlimited technology, life extension, everything else, no more crime, everything's great, for about 100 years. But then they start taking control of the children and saying there's no genders, and then you can't be with your parents anymore, but everybody's getting life extension and all this other stuff, so it's okay. And then finally, a few more generations later, they just go ahead and tell them, we're going to upload you into this big cube that's set to show up, and the big, tall, red devils are good guys, according to this, and they're just guardians of this and work for this consciousness, and then we're all uploaded to the cube, if you believe that. Of course, that's what our friendly little red devils are telling us. And then Arthur C. Clarke basically said, well, these really aren't science fiction books. This is what we're going to do to you. And there's the things to come, the shape of things to come, the film, the book. You've got H.G. Wells, who wrote more nonfiction books than he wrote fiction. You know, he wrote in 1900 about atomic bombs and the equations for atomic bombs because they already had those equations. And then they decided when they would roll that out to you. And just recently they declassified Max Planck had a bunch of equations that had been kept secret by the Austrian-Hungarian Empire that, of course, had the hydrogen bomb equations that he'd written up. He published them privately in 1900 as well, but he had the equations 20 years before. Oh, and guess where a lot of these mathematicians actually get the inspiration? It's when they're dreaming, and almost all of them in their diaries said that they were talking to spirits or entities that were giving them the knowledge, just like Galton, Wedgwood, Huxley, Darwin, all of them. So you think of aliens arrive in this dimension in flying saucers, or Pacific Rim, they come out of a rift in a dimension and break into our dimension. But see, if there's all these dimensions above and below us, see, it's right here. We only just see this limited dimension. It's actually, we're psychic. Everybody knows that. We are transceivers. We transmit, receive. It's been proven. Well, see, there's a broadcast, and there's some really bad folks in the universe who are broadcasting blueprints to kill everybody. And our establishment goes, oh, this is incredible. We've been given this by God. It ain't God. And God warned us about it 2,000 years ago. All right, I'm going to finish up with the big picture. Then I'm going to drill into what's currently happening and why I've done certain things strategically to try to stop the globalists. And the attack profile we ran actually worked. And I'm going to explain why I'm getting into this, because I'm going to just lay out the next attack profile. And people say, why would you want to lay out your next plan to try to take down the globalists fully? Because I want you to join me. The enemy already knows their weaknesses. But if you're going to beat them, you've got to realize what you're up against. People say, well, if this is really interdimensional off-world intelligence we're fighting, that's actually demoralizing. Why not give in to it? Because there's not just evil in the universe. And the good is God and is infinity more powerful than the devil. And this infection we've got. If we make it through this as a planet and as a species together, we're going to look back on beating this like we beat a case of gangrene or hepatitis or something. We're dealing with basically interdimensional space garbage. But we are children. We're embryonic at this point, so we don't know that. And there are a lot of people impressed with what the devil has to offer. Because the devil rules this world, can give you a lot of stuff. And so people, low level, sell out to it right away. But they're only given power to be slaves on this planet and hurt innocent people. And they lose the ability to go on to be with God at higher levels of development. The universe goes in two directions. It goes into entropy, and it goes into higher order. Entropy and higher order. Two different directions. And I want to go into the higher order. What about you? Now, let me get back to what I'm breaking down here. You have to understand, this was always hiding in plain view. Hardcore, real Bible-believing Christians know all this, but they see it through interpretations of people hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, preachers 200 years ago trying to interpret it. But if you really pull back and interpret it from what the other agents said as well, this is a continual thread, as if there were already other civilizations before, or we were warned about what happened to other civilizations, because there is a race consciousness memory in humans of all of this. Some could say that's why we're repeating it again, because we've already been through it before and we're some type of emergency, mission from another place that we destroy. And there's a lot of passages in the Bible that actually talk about other creations before this one. And Christ says, I have other flocks. And if you really study what's in Ezekiel and what's in the other books of the Bible, it's incredible. And Ezekiel opens with Ezekiel standing there in the Old Testament 3,000 years ago, and he sees a big, giant burning wheel coming out of the sky. And then it lands, and out come floating chariots with people with a big bubble. The word they use in Hebrew translates into crystal glass domes over their heads. That's what the Bible actually says, not what people in medieval times tried to engrave with their interpretation. Big, giant, burning wheel landing. A door opens, out comes stairs, and then out floats machines with humanoids with big, giant bubbles over their heads. And then they say, eat this. The angel says, eat this. Here, take this. And he takes it, and boy, he gets a big download and starts talking for the rest of his life about everything that's going to happen. And people start to listen because suddenly this guy knows what's going to happen next week. This guy knows what's going to happen next year. They keep, at first they don't listen to him, but later they go, this guy knows everything. And then pretty soon, he's telling you what's going to happen in 3,000 years. And lo and behold, just what he told us is going to happen in 3,000 years is happening. Wow, I wonder why he got a warning. Because there's not just evil in the universe. Hey, if somebody shows up here and tells you to do this and set up a world government and not be able to buy and sell unless you scan your face and your hand and tells you to put something in your body, and there's these giant images projected, holograms, you've got to worship it, and they start going after your family and they put children on top of the parents, get ready because a really bad guy is going to show up and start killing everybody. You're kind of like, well, that's, somebody hallucinating, in the Middle East 3,000 years ago. And then it all comes true. So, whether Ezekiel and John the Revelator and all these people just got lucky, which we know they didn't, doesn't even matter, does it? Because we know this is being built right now. And when you study Ray Kurzweil and all these globalists, they have these big elite meetings at fancy resorts, the billionaires all go, and they have the Hollywood people there, and they've been let in on all of this. I'm somebody just reading their writings over 25 years, warning people. But they go to these meetings, and the one rule is accept world government, accept the destruction of the family, accept transhumanism, that humans are going to merge with machines, and accept that there are too many people and we've got to get rid of a bunch of them. And then once you've accepted that, you're like an SS officer. You're ready to kill anybody you're told to. But it's okay because it's for the earth. Oh, because there was another guy 2,400 years ago, I forget, named Plato, the most famous philosopher ever, and everything in his books they've dug up and found to be true except a few things. You might want to go find out what those few things are, because it's just exactly what you read about in the Bible, except he's selling it like it's already there. How Atlantis had the flying cars and the flying ships and unlimited energy, and then there was something happened and it blew up. And then for many years the sky was dark, which happens in a giant explosion. And there was a little mini ice age, which we know happened. And then he had his allegory of the cave and all the rest of it. All I'm telling you is what you get on the news and what you see and what you're told is all meant to distract you from these larger issues. And the globalists aren't setting up a world government to get rid of the population of humans because we've gotten lazy, we've gotten stupid, we're eating all the resources, we're hurting the earth. You could have that sick argument. No. The globalists themselves are doing everything they can to the atmosphere and the ocean and their genetic engineering and all of it that in every case fundamentally wounds the infrastructure and the biospheres and the different communities of organisms on this planet. And everything they do in the name of environmentalism is to block the fact that they're the ones killing the earth in a giant Munchausen by proxy. One of the crew made that point. It's like mothers that hurt their kids for attention or whatever, or like a sacrifice. And that's what this is it's an attempt to kill the planet or irrevocably mutate it and twist it, because these globalists believe they've got to do this to transcend, and out of this transcension, out of this war, they will become gods. And again, think about all the billionaires that come out and say, you know, watch out for people that say the AI gods are coming. Because I've been at the meetings and they're talking about world government exterminating most of the people. Because that's what you now see Elon Musk and others saying. And because Elon came out and told you that, suddenly, oh, there's fires at his factories. Suddenly Soros starts trying to short the stock. Suddenly he's the bad guy. Suddenly, you see. Because he went to the meetings and thought, oh my God, this is all real. This is all true. You know, people have taken stuff I've said a decade ago and lined it up with what Elon Musk says now. It's word for word what I'm saying. But see, it's not because Elon Musk is getting it from me. He's been to the meetings where this is all being discussed. So, there is an overt program now to literally destroy humanity. I was driving to work this morning, driving into the studios here in Austin, Texas, and I was going to start the broadcast with global governance and the main tenets of it. But then I went off into what the end game of global government is once they get control. Then I was looking at newswars.com and also drudgereport.com and saw two different articles that tie into this. Here's one of them. Alexander Cortez, inevitable global warming governance, that's global governance, will create economic, social, and racial justice. It's inevitable that we can use the transition to 100% renewable energy as a vehicle to truly deliver and establish economic, social, racial justice in the United States of America. Yeah, Spain went bankrupt with the windmills and all the rest of it. She's up there with Bernie Sanders and these other Van Jones, these other horrible people. I'll play that video later when Gary Franchi, great newsman, joins us next hour. But you want a global government, you want a global tax on carbon dioxide that plants breathe. You've got to have water, you've got to have sunshine, you've got to have carbon dioxide, and you've got to have oxygen for life on this planet. And then if you look at it, they're attacking the atmosphere, and they're trying to reduce carbon dioxide that's at the lowest ever recorded in the last 500 years. There's little ups and little downs, but overall, carbon dioxide used to be hundreds of times stronger in the atmosphere. Plants grow bigger, stronger. There's more oxygen. Humans do well. The Earth is in an oxygen and carbon dioxide starved state. In fact, we're losing our atmosphere, just like Mars. And the exact policies of the barium salts, aluminum dioxide, everything else that's going on is to actually destroy our atmosphere. And hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hydrogen bombs were detonated by the United States and others in the high atmosphere and actually blew holes in the atmosphere and caused accelerated off-gassing of our atmosphere. It was believed by scientists at the time that it might actually ignite and burn the Earth's atmosphere completely. They still did it. That's even in Discovery Channel programs like Trinity and Beyond, narrated by William Shatner. I'm going to say it again. Children are being taken from their parents if the 7-year-old wants to say they're a girl and they're a boy because the school messed with their brain and taught them to be rebellious. Mother and father, all over the world's under attack. Our genetics are under attack. Our DNA is falling apart. The 5G, the 4G, the 3G. The GMO crops are leaking into our genetics. And we're seeing every metric showing genetic disorders, cancer, neurological disorders are exploding. But yet they tell you, don't worry, we're environmentally going to increase the power all over the world and put in government-run 5G to fry you, whether you like it or not. We're going to have lots of TV shows like Better Call Saul that, you know, make fun of the crazy lawyer And you just see this crap everywhere. Because the crazy lawyer thinks he's sick from Wi-Fi. It doesn't matter how many studies there are. It doesn't matter what the facts are. It doesn't matter if Harvard admits in 25 studies that 1 part per million of sodium fluoride in the water causes massive birth defects, increased cancer, and a 15-point IQ reduction. Even Wired admits it. 5G smartphones are causing cancer. But big tech doesn't want you to know about it. But the globalists from Japan to the United States are buying extremely rural, faraway places and actually are now passing laws or incorporating or putting up huge fences where no wireless is allowed, and then they're actually relocating to those. You know, then they always spin it and say, Alex Jones is a troglodyte. He's afraid of technology. No, I'm not. I'm always an early adopter. Jones is afraid of technology. No, I'm not. I know what's going on here. These technologies are Trojan horses for social control and population reduction, and they admit they are. It's like when they say, Jones doesn't believe in vaccines. No, I know you can have learned immunity. I know the whole history of immunization for 600 years, starting in England, for smallpox. And I know the doctors told you back then it could kill you, but some people opted to do it. But the inserts admit on all the vaccines they can kill you, give you all these different neurological disorders, read them for yourself, but the nightly news will tell you nobody ever gets hurt, even though when I'm looking at local news all the time, people are dying, people are paralyzed from the Gardasil, the flu shot. There's a bunch of articles out today about it. There's one on Infowars.com. Man unable to speak, walk, see, or breathe. Days after getting flu shot. Total Guillain-Barré. Total shutdown of the neurological system. The central nervous system. Hey, but he did what he was told. He went into Walgreens and rolled up a sleeve. Even though the flu shots never, ever worked. It's not designed to. You see, it's a carrier. But metaphysically, they need you to go opt into it. So they see it as they're not committing a war crime like they did when they would tell black folks, oh, it's a vaccine. They were really giving them syphilis for 47 years. And it wasn't until a few whistleblowers went public, they would still be giving black people and poor white Appalachians in Kentucky and other areas syphilis, and then letting them spread it and letting them die horrible, tortured deaths as microscopic worms eat your brain. Instead, we're supposed to watch the political establishment in, what, 5 different ceremonies now for Herbert Walker Bush? And watch him wrapped in the American flag when he worked steadfastly against this country from the time he got out of the Navy in World War II until the time he died. These are the social climbing political hacks that love to think of themselves as powerful and cool. These are the people that have worked to destroy this nation. Almost all of them in attendance. Those are the enemies of America right there. They're the problem. But there is a larger spiritual problem. The Bible calls it the mystery of evil. It's a wavelength. It's an internet. It's a broadcast of evil inclination, of a reservoir empowering those, in incentivizing, giving them that light bulb of ideas to carry out this thing they're building. And it's not taking us to a good place. We already know that. And it's real. And it's happening. And the censorship's here. And the attacks on our families is here. And it's the final war. Not tanks and armies coming over the hill to get you. You can organize against that to fight. No, it's just attacking your family, attacking your children, attacking your bank account, attacking your health, attacking your right to speech, attacking everything you hold dear, doing everything it can to get you out of the countryside, out of knowing how to skin a buck around a trot line, out of going to the little church, into the establishment arms of the system of conformity, when the conformity is giving into an anti-human, post-human world. You're either with the humans or you're against the humans, because whether it's the devil or whether it's just some weird thing and a certain percentage of people that are psychotic, they try to build systems like this, whatever it is that's running this, from a military perspective, you would say it's a off-world entity who went and made deals with the ruling class to set up systems to dumb down and poison and slowly kill the population. And then you read what the globalists are doing, it's exactly that. And they say we're in rituals where these entities tell us to do this. Whether it's George Herbert Walker Bush, when they get in that coffin, they believe that the goddess Eulogia comes to them and tells them what it is they've got to do. And then the devil comes to them and tells them what they've got to do. And all these people, in every case, when you study them, when they're not in a church acting like they're Christian, they're channeling evil spirits. Now, let's say I'm like a sociologist or an anthropologist. You don't have to believe in all this to know there are pygmies that shrink people's heads, or the Aztecs cut people's hearts out, or the Jeffrey Dahmer grabbed kids and, you know, cut them up and put them in the refrigerator. This is going on. The ruling elite believe that they are divinely inspired and are to become gods, but first they got to kill everybody and destroy their own planet. Sounds like they bought a bill of goods. What do you think? We fundamentally expose globalism as this planetary world government authoritarian system. And so they denied it existed. But now they're out in the open admitting it exists because they were unsuccessful in stopping a debate about it. So now they've just moved directly to total censorship of any nationalist, of any Christian, of any conservative that exposes the scam that they're involved in. And there's a clip up on drudgereport.com where Alexander Cortez says it's inevitable that global warming governance, a global governance of global warming, tracking everything you do, will create economic, social, and racial justice. So that's these big carbon exchanges owned by Al Gore and Lord Rothschild and Barack Obama. You can't make this stuff up. Being paid by everybody that engages in any human activity. Everything's taxed. Everything. Being born is taxed. And you pay this new super class of Bernie Sanders types to fly around on their private jets while they tell you they're saving the earth and saving the atmosphere with all these taxes. While they're carrying out geoengineering operations that actually could collapse the atmosphere, all the scientists that have looked at it say. So they're collapsing it. They're going to bring the taxes in and then later say, oh, we acted too little too late. You can see the whole diabolical plan. Mike Adams has written a masterstroke report that everyone should read. It's at naturalnews.com and Infowars.com. I'm going to have it reposted to the top of Infowars.com. Terraforming has begun. Global dimming is a plot to exterminate humanity by terraforming the atmosphere with smog pollution, killing Earth's food crops, and unleashing ecological collapse. This is reality, and I'm begging you to get the report and get out to everyone you know.
Gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government.
You still think that jet fuel brought down the World Trade Center?
Does anybody else see a problem here? If the government has nothing to hide, why are they so afraid to answer a few questions?
This story does not add up.